Welcome to the Excel in Retirement podcast, where we help good people make wise financial decisions so that they can excel in retirement. Your guide is David Treese, a financial advisor who shares his expertise to help you achieve greater peace of mind about your finances today and have the information that you need to create a plan to help you have a future that you can excel in retirement. I'm the host of the show, Andy Traub, and today David's going to talk us through really the current state of the market and what history tells us about bubbles and crashes and the data we use to understand them. So I want to clarify, David, let's say off the bat, if you knew and could predict the market, you would have a very different life, because anyone who could do that would have a very different life.
They would.
So we're not predicting the market, but we are looking for data that
Yes.
points us to trends. And this was in your recent newsletter. And so if you're not a subscriber to that, you go to clientsexcel.com and subscribe to that. But tell us what motivated you to talk about this in your recent newsletter, and then tell us what this Wall Street Journal article told or expresses.
Yeah, well, in talking to people just yesterday, somebody was saying, when I was asking them, I always ask people how you're feeling about the stock market and the economy right now, because that can be important to inform how we invest. And people are worried about it just going up, up, up. And we've seen some large stock market returns the last couple years. And it was looking like earlier this year we were going to have some trouble, but things have turned around and we're up, over 16% year to date going into this week. And so a lot of people are really starting to get nervous about the concentration in AI stocks and how they are driving the market up. And so the Wall Street Journal had a great article about that. So despite the S&P 500 being up so much, 37% of the companies are negative for the year, which is crazy. And then it was analogizing that with 1999 leading up to the dot-com crash.
So, obviously, mathematically, just because 37% of something is, if you take a group of, let's say you've got 100 students and 37% of their grades went down, it doesn't mean that it's going to pull everybody's, because if the ones who are doing well do way better,
Yes.
meaning that it's not mathematically crazy for 37% of companies to not be growing, but for the market to still be growing. And also, the market is separate from, profit,
Right.
in companies. That's
Right.
the other part of this. But as an advisor, as you look at this article, there's a few things that I love the parallels you pointed out. So I'll just speak to these, and then you can comment on a few of them. Investors are betting on a new technology. This is parallels between 99 and now. Investors are betting on a new technology to deliver unusually fast profit growth. If it happens, higher valuations might be justified. Meaning, if AI can truly do what it says it can do, if those companies can create that much value and position themselves that they're that important, that bet may pay off. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. And I guess what interested me in this is I'm using AI every day, 7 days a week right now. And so as more and more people adopt this, it's going to be growing more rapidly. And there's so much money flowing into it. I am by no means an expert on AI, though, but it's just fascinating some of the stuff you can do with these tools and how they can streamline stuff. And, you hear a lot from baby boomers that I talk to about the fear of what it's telling you, and the lack of, they fear the integrity is not there with it. But what I try to explain to people is, like, if these tools are telling you bad information or manipulative information, you're going to quit using them. And
Yeah.
so it's in their best interest to tell you the facts as much as they can. But at times, you've just got to be smarter than the computer. I was using it this morning and asking it to verify questions that I thought to be the case, and it told me some bad information. And I don't think it was malicious. It was just doing the best it could with what it knew. And so I think, though, as more and more people adopt this, it's going to only grow. And so that's a wonderful thing for the markets if it can continue, but who knows?
Yeah, and I think one of the challenges of AI's growth is that if AI really grows and becomes much more woven into our fabric of our daily lives,
Right?
many people will lose their jobs.
Yes,
And so you
potentially.
got the combination of very profitable, necessary companies, and then their growth creates job loss, which obviously is negative on the economy and households and so on and so forth. But I think AI's biggest challenge right now is just people understanding how to use it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw the famous, I think it was Bryant Gumbel and Katie Couric. They were, anchors in the 80s, early 90s of, I don't know what show they were the anchor of, Good Morning America or something like that. But talking about the internet for the first time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on camera. I don't think it was like in between, but they're like, what is this www internet thing
Yeah.
that works with your phone, right? I laugh because I think about that's how people talk about AI right now. They're like, what
Right.
can it do and how does it work? And so let's go back to this: the massive infrastructure spending right now. These companies are doing a lot of what the .com did, which is they did massive spending in hopes that it would pay off. So what was the spending they did in the 90s? What was their investments then?
It was billions of dollars. The article talked about this, but something that you triggered a thought in my head. There's that fear that people are going to lose their jobs, and I mean, I understand that, and I really think that makes our stewardship of what we have today all the more important. Because if
What do you mean by
you,
that?
yeah, like my daughters, I want them to have a better outcome than I am having. And so that makes the resources that I have today all the more important so that I could help them if they don't have the opportunities that I have. I think there will be opportunities. There always is. And God cares for his children, right? And so we can be taken care of in adverse situations. But I think that adjusting your money, especially for folks that perhaps are going to pass away with money in their accounts, and maybe that's their goal. Legacy planning is important, that we should be thinking about that and how we can help our children if there's less job opportunities when
Mm,
they become of age
yeah,
or as they advance in their career or our grandchildren or
yeah,
whatnot. And so it goes
great
back to
point.
that Proverbs verse about a wise man leaving an inheritance to his children's children. And I think there's certainly the an argument to be made for that right now being especially important with such uncertainty, because there's a ton of uncertainty, I think, in the economy and what's going on in the world. And the problem with all of this is we can't, in our country at least, we don't have consensus on doing anything. Where there's opposing views, and we're like
Yeah,
way off to the
yeah,
side either
yeah.
way. And so that is troubling. But I think it makes our stewardship of what God has entrusted to us all the more important.
You mentioned stewardship and our children, and I think about, if I think about affordability, and affordability really isn't a political opinion, it's math, right? And I heard, and I'll look this up for a future episode, but that people used to work their way through college,
Yeah,
and when I went to college, it was like $8,000 for the year or something. I went to an in-state, but it was half price, so it was actually like 4,000. My mom worked for the college, so I got half off in-state,
nice.
right? And now you look at the cost of college, and it used to be that, like, if you wanted to work your way through college, you could do that making $10 an hour after tips, right? And now they say you have to make like $75 an hour, or $112, $150 an hour, right, to work your way through college. That's how expensive it is. So the stewardship also of this is, if our kids are not going to be able to afford homes right away or as early because housing costs so much, then we have to be ready to have them live with us longer or supplement an apartment, or, like, those are the things where we can, and also how are we preparing them to use AI,
Right.
right? Is it a big boogeyman and we say stay away, or are we preparing them? I want to ask you about fear and growth. How many of your clients are afraid because things are so good?
Because things are so good, they're not afraid because things are so good, for sure. I think that
Or I should say that they're like, it's good, but it's too good to be true. This can't, or
yeah.
people just were writing it.
Yeah. Do you mean like, do people fear that their life is too good? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, it's like they're looking at the market and they're saying it can't keep going up.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that
Right.
every day. I hear that every day,
Really?
and I think that the older you get, the more acutely you are aware of that. Because ultimately, if you have that 401k savings, you've saved it. If you're like most people, to be able to potentially use it during retirement, and so you become more and more aware, and you're more fixated on that as you age. Which, there's stats that come out. Allianz recently did a poll or a survey, and I don't know the exact percentage off the top of my head. I wrote about it recently, but it's something like about 40 to 50% of people are really worried about outliving their money. And it really doesn't matter what amount of money they have. They can have millions of dollars and still fear that. And so that is something that we try to combat with folks and give more people more peace of mind. That's our goal, to help them have as much peace of mind as possible.
Absolutely. I have two questions that also based on a newsletter. One is you wrote that Cisco was the most valuable company in March of 2000 and only recently reached its former peak,
Isn't
which
that
is
insane?
fascinating.
It is
And you
insane.
said if there's ever an argument for diversification,
Yeah.
that's got to be one of them, right?
Right.
And so the idea there is what, that if you were just riding Cisco, it would have taken you 25 years to get back. So that's why
Yes.
you've got to be diversified.
Right, right. I mean, a guy came in earlier this year and had a really over $1 million concentrated in one stock. That's happened actually a couple times
I
this year.
almost did a spit take. I don't know if you're watching me on video. I was taking a drink of coffee when you told me that, and I almost spit it out
Yeah, yeah,
in one
yeah,
stock.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I had a.
What'd you tell him?
We need to do something about this, and there's strategies. It's all about the taxes. Typically, these were taxable accounts, and so there's a
Okay.
big taxable gain. But there's strategies that you can use to try to piecemeal that and pay the taxes over time. But the point is like, when you have that much of a concentration, typically people have been holding that for many years to be able to get there. Is how that typically works. And so, something else that it's hard to say this to people because people don't believe you when you say this, but there comes a point when the numbers just make sense for people. And it's almost kind of like, and barring no crazy circumstances, you're going to have retirement income of X. And that's might be similar to what you have now. So in many ways, you've kind of won the game of investing in retirement planning. So why do you need to keep why do you have to keep taking on as much risk as you're taking on now? You don't have to,
Yeah.
and at least
Yeah.
with not all of your money. And so that is what we tell folks, and that's
Yeah.
typically a
But
hard
people do that
conversation.
because that's what they're used to. They think,
Right.
you know, it's like people who can't stop working.
Yes.
It's like, did you know that you don't have to work today? And they're like, what? And it's often not because they want to. It's like we are creatures of habit.
We
And
are.
and it is staggering the amount of things that we do that we don't think about doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just do
True.
that. Why? Because that's just I've always done that.
Right.
And here's the other thing. It's fascinating how many things we feel, how many emotions we feel, not because we chose that emotion. It's just we're just used to feeling that way.
Yeah. We should
So
have a
I know people that
psychologist.
never worry about money because
Yeah.
they've never worried about money. Not because they don't need to worry, right? But people are just like, I don't know, I don't worry about that. And other people who always worry about it. Now, how much money they have? I didn't say how much money they had. That's just a feeling they're just used to having,
Right.
right? I
We should
go ahead. Go
we
ahead.
should have a psychologist on to tell us why people do that. I
Well,
would, I would love to know the technical
we'll
reasons.
do that. We'll do that. We'll do that.
Yeah.
I'll work on that. All right. So
Yeah.
here's another one. We'll end with this one. Ultimately, the Wall Street Journal says this quote: ultimately, whether this is a bubble depends on whether it pops. I love that sentence. That's great. If it turns out AI can't deliver both the promised productivity gains and fat profits for its creators, the parallel will be to the painful.com aftermath, not the boom. So, what is the answer for people who are worried about AI not panning out from a profit perspective for stockholders?
Well, the good news about this is that if the market did collapse, it has never taken more than 10 years for the market to break even again overall in modern history. We would have to go back to the Great Depression for it to take longer. And so when we have a plan and we know how we are allocated and we understand why we're doing that, we should be able to stay invested so that we're not timing the market. When we're timing the market, we have to be right twice. We have to know when to get out and when to get back in. But in order to stay invested, if you're close to retirement, if you're within 5 years of retirement or you're in retirement, you have to have some money allocated that you can use for income and to give you some diversity with what you're doing. And so we need to have some money in what we call our blue bucket, which I talk about in my book. We have our red money that's in the market and our blue money that's more stable. It earns some good interest, but it goes up and to the right a whole lot more than it would ever go down. And
Because it's very stable.
Very
because
stable.
Because it's not, it's
Yes.
not under your mattress because
Yep.
inflation's going to eat it.
Right.
Like bed bugs. You
Yep.
don't leave that on your mattress.
Yep.
But it's stable because, and you can say that with certainty is, unless we're at negative interest rates or zero interest rates,
Yeah.
which never in my lifetime have we been there. We've been
Right.
pretty close with 1%, 2% interest rates. But that's when you talk about it's stable.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your risk tolerance, how we invest that money, and there are ways that you could lose money in the blue bucket, but we want it to be as stable as possible, and have as much safety as we can create, because that's the first place that you're going to draw down against in retirement with our methodology, and so we want that stabilized so that you can allow your red bucket or market money to grow. So the worst case scenario is you're in retirement and you come in and you look at your iPhone or you turn on the TV and there's that red banner scrolling across the bottom of the screen indicating a market crash. If you had all your money in Cisco or you have all your money in Nvidia, I think it would be human nature to worry and be perplexed about what you're going to do. But if we have a portion of our money for income stabilized that we can draw off of for the next 10 years or so, hopefully we can have more peace of mind. Nobody wants to be fretting about money in retirement. And it's a lot, I would say, in my observation, people probably worry about money less when they have that paycheck coming in. But when the onus is on you to create the paycheck, there can be a lot more worry. And so we want to try to eliminate that if we can by having a stable bucket of money that we can draw against.
Yeah, right. I think about from a physical perspective, how many, if you're listening to this, you think about your home and you think about how much of where you live in your physical space are you in the elements? Meaning, do you live in the woods? No, you live in a house, but part of your home is outside. Right? But when a storm comes, I just go inside. Mm-hmm. I'm protected. So most of my life is protected. Most of where I live is protected. I have some exposures, meaning I've got a yard and I've got a sidewalk and I've got a driveway and yada yada. And so there's risk in my life and where I live, but most of my life is protected. And I think if we think about our finances as in, yeah, there's some risk, there's some things that are exposed, but especially as you get closer to retirement, the more you can protect what you have, the better. Yes. Right? We want to protect as much as we possibly can. I think about this with a car. You can put your hand out the window, but most of you is protected. You know what I mean? And so as you think about this and you think about, the market and crashes and booms and busts, is diversification is really important. Having a plan is really important. And so I encourage you to reach out to David if you have any questions or concerns about this. About the state of the market, about where your money's at, about diversification. If maybe you don't have $1 million in one stock, but maybe you just don't know. And I will just tell you, if you don't know if you're diversified well enough, probably not, because you haven't thought about it, right? And so it's wise to ask. And if you're in a good spot, then he'll tell you. And if you're not in a good spot, then he'll help you get into a better spot.
That's right.
So David, as always, thanks for your time and thanks for your wisdom today.
Thank you, Andy.
Investment advisory services offered through Creative One Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Clients excel in Creative One Wealth or unaffiliated entities. We are not affiliated with or endorsed by any government agency and do not provide tax or legal advice. Investing involves risk, including the loss of principal. No investment strategy can guarantee a profit or protect against loss. Licensed insurance professional. Insurance and annuity products are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. Investment advisory services are provided in accordance with a fiduciary duty of care and loyalty that includes putting your interests first and disclosing conflicts. Insurance services have a best interest standard, which requires recommendations to be in your best interest. Advisors may receive commission for the sale of insurance and annuity products.